Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Ricci, and I'm a CT educator at the High School of Fashion Industries. Today, we are here with industry leader in advertising, Jeremy Bergstein. I would like to I would like to ask you a few questions about your exciting career. Are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay. So, how long have you been in the industry for?
Um, I've been in the fashion and retail industry for probably about 12 to 13 years now.
That's great. So, would you mind sharing out a little bit of your experience?
Sure. First of all, the name of my company is the Science Project, and I was a New York City public high school science teacher. So, hats off to all of you guys, all of your teachers, all of the students. I mean, that was, coming out of teaching school was one of the biggest inspirations of my life. And I entered into the fashion industry when digital was really just starting to blow up. And it was, the internet was very wide open. It was very exciting. E-com, believe it or not, was like just in its infancy. That was my way in, was really like thinking about how technology was going to change fashion, was going to change customer experience, was going to change how customers interacted with clothing, how customers interacted with brands, how customers interacted with fit, with try on, with color, with fabric, all of those real tangible things that you can lay your hands on, and you guys especially handle every day. But digital was changing really very quickly. So that was my entrance point many years ago, and that really came from just being inquisitive. I felt like being a teacher, I was always asking questions of my students and asking them to examine how things worked. And I just wanted to know how things worked with digital, and I still do.
That's really exciting. I like how you mentioned that you were an educator and then you transitioned into a different role. Do you have any advice to students, in the future, kind of that like they don't need to stick to one thing, that perhaps they can venture into different realms?
Oh, it's a big can of worms right over there. You know, I definitely think, you have to build a career. You want to build skills. You really want to build skills and have a focus. And if you're going to, for me, I've always been really into digital, and I have a specific expertise around digital, fashion, brands. And then I've expanded that. And I borrowed upon being a teacher. But you have to be like I think it's okay to change careers. You certainly, like, and I hate to say it, as I get older, it's definitely one of those things where it's nice to change careers, but it's also really good to build a set of skills and build your own. I mean, your guys' generation knows it more than any generation on building your own personal brand. And I don't mean like a personal brand on social media, but a set of skills and owning a set of kind of things that you're known for. If you are going to be the best pattern maker, or you're going to be the best science teacher, or you're going to be the best CTE teacher, like really having a core of skills and then going and building on that. And even my practice right now, I lead with being a teacher. I'm always a teacher. I work in fashion now, but when I sit down, I've sat down with the biggest brands in the world and some of the most well-known creators in the world, and I'm still a teacher. I'm asking them questions. I'm talking to them about educating them in digital. I'm educating them in digital advertising. I'm educating them in e-com. And the core of what I do really has never changed. So I would say, like, think about you certainly, I certainly didn't have any of these questions answered when I was graduating high school, but as you go through your early career, you're going to find where your strengths and weaknesses are, and lean into those strengths. Some people are going to be outstanding educators, and some people aren't. Some people are going to be great communicators. Some people are quiet. Some people are incredibly organized and great operators. Some people aren't. Like, for example, I'm not very organized. So I surround myself and have found roles and have built my roles where I can be complemented with people who can help me with those types of things. So, I like the idea of changing, but I like the idea of adding things and building to that kernel of what you're strong at. And then, once you can really build that, then you're opening up options for yourself. The one thing I would say is, like, there are options out there. There's always options. And I found when I was a high school teacher that that was one of the main things that I talk to students about, is the wide variety of things that there are out there. Like, when I was a teacher in New York City, I was like, oh man, these students are exposed to the most wide variety of careers that are out there. And in all reality, there's a lot of stuff that goes on outside of New York. It's definitely the greatest city in the world, as Tara and I talk about. But there are a lot of options out there. So really understand, how you can, the breadth of what you can do in this world, and be useful and productive at.
That's amazing. Thank you for your honesty.
Sure, yeah.
So, in your current role, what's a normal work day like? What do you do? What are some of your tasks and responsibilities?
Yeah. Well, in advertising, you've got a couple main tasks. So you've got, I always say, like, you've got to have your product, and then you've got to have people you sell your product to. So for me, what I sell is creative services, and technology services. The people I sell it to are brands and retailers. So at any one time, I'm working with 3 or 4 brands and retailers, everyone from a Nike and Estee Lauder, Pat McGrath, Wayfair. Like, so those are my clients. I've got to make sure that they are well taken care of, or else they'll hate me and that won't work with me again. So you've got to make sure that your clients are taken care of, your customers. So for me, that's emails, that's sending them like check-ins, agendas, minutes from meetings, making sure that everything is like well provisioned for. They're always busy, and I'm only one person that they have to deal with. They're dealing with tens of hundreds of sorts of things, and they want to know that I'm on it. So I have to be on it. So I communicate to my clients. And for me, that's email, phone calls, every once in a while, texts. There's obviously a lot of different communication tools out there, like Slack these days, Zoom that we're on right now. When I first started my business and would take interns in from, some of them from the High School of Fashion, some of them from my older school, I would teach them how to answer the phone or write a proper email. I encourage you guys, those things seem simple, and like you might not like think about doing them all the time, but learn how to, like, talk on the phone, like, dress for a Zoom meeting, um, write a proper, like, well-structured email and organize your thoughts. Those baseline skills are things like that I look for in any person that I am going to hire. And you guys would be like shocked at how many people who are like older that can't send a proper email and organize their thoughts. And those are the types of things that are just so important. So I would encourage you, understand your communication tools, because they're a big part of my everyday. 2, then I have a staff, and I have to take care of my staff. You have to keep your staff assigned with tasks. You have to keep them productive. You have to keep them like moving along. Again, communication, process, leadership, just being really clear with people, letting them know what they have to do for the day, and also when they're done, what does it take, what is the level of quality and excellence that you expect if I am telling somebody this is, you need to give me 3 options for a homepage for an e-com site, or, we're thinking of a new campaign, or, I want to see some research around, checkout for cosmetics. You have to let them know exactly what you expect from them and the level to which it needs to be performed at. So, again, at the core of that is just making sure that you're really clear, you document it, you communicate with people. Even if you're a lousy verbal communicator, there's a lot of different tools to be able to communicate with. So learn, those are important. So for me, customers, manage my staff, and then I love the work. I don't like just being like, telling people you do this, you do that. I'm always thinking about my what I'm doing, like whether it's during the day. I mean, that's one of the things about owning your own business. You never put it down. So I'm always thinking about ideas and concepts for my customers. So a lot of times I'll try to go, radio silent for the day. A lot of times what I do is I get up early, because once everybody else is up, they're asking me questions and it's tough for me to get work in. So I'll get up actually really early and do a bunch of work myself, and think about brands, think about creative. So I wake up, do a little bit of heads down time. I make a checklist every week. It's something that's long, and it's something that I wish I learned how to do when I was your guys' age. Seriously, like I've only recently gotten a lot better at it. But I would put everything on it. Get out of bed, like do 10 push-ups. I can do more than 10, but but put everything on it so you can start checking stuff off. You can edit that out, Tara, by the way.
I think we'll keep it. It's
but
important.
Well, I do think that the checklist, put everything on it. This is something I learned from something I watched a while ago, just so you can start checking stuff off. Got out of bed, made coffee, wrote emails, and then you just start mowing through that stuff, and it gives you a feeling of accomplishment, and getting stuff done. I think that is super important. Then I'll move on to communicating with my staff. And then I'll reach out to all of my clients. We'll go through the progress of some of my projects. This morning, we pushed a new website live for a client. So yeah, I mean, it's, and then, I wrap my day up. I don't know. It's tough to say when I wrap my day up. I try to, because I get up early, I really in the afternoon, I'm not as productive. So I try to take a little bit of a breather and then come back to it later in the day. And at the end of the day, I always try to think about, what I need to do for the next day. And I have to tell you, I love work. I mean, it's that, I really, really enjoy work. And I enjoy it more and more as I get older. I think it's, it's gratifying always to get things done. So, that's what my day is like.
That's awesome. So you spoke about some of the keys to success and what really, drives an incredible career. So you spoke of communication, you spoke of time management, and just organization. Can you share your thoughts on collaboration? How does that work in the career, in the workspace?
Yeah, collaboration is one that your guys' generation is going to be quite different. The core of create, you can't do it alone, right? You cannot do it alone. I've learned that the hard way. I've learned it the easy way. I've tangled with so many different types of collaboration. In the creative field, you have bad collaborators, people who don't want anybody else's opinion, who take criticism well. Collaboration is an exercise in patience. It's an exercise in being able to take criticism. I remember working with a really, really good creative director a long time ago, and he was really expensive. I hired him to do a big campaign with me, and I hated his work. The first round of his work sucked. And I said to somebody, I was like, man, this person's so expensive. And what do I tell them? I really don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. And this person I was talking to was like, just tell them this guy's a big boy. He'll be able to deal with it. And sure enough, this person took in that criticism and turned out something that was 10 times better than I could have expected the first time. So, what I would say with collaboration and cooperation is, the best collaborators that I've found are people who can take critiques and can take this information, whether it's easy, whether it's hard, whether it's like, delivered like in the way that you want to have it delivered or delivered in a tough way, absorb it, read through the BS and understand, where you can improve your work and go and come back twice as strong. Like it's my business, the creative business, you go through these iterations, right? You guys have been doing it. I see all of your stuff in the high school all the time, taking in criticism and turning out something better, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor, whether you're, going and coming back stronger. Like criticism and collaboration is there to make the work better, not to take you down, and make you feel crappy. And I think that it's a big problem, I think, with some people. They just think, and people are always like, a little abrasive about how, what collaboration is meant to do, as it comes in a lot of forms. But get used to it. The mark of a senior, of a great operator, and somebody I will hire time and time and time again, is somebody who can take criticism and collaboration and turn out better work because of it. So it's my kind of biggest note on that.
Did we cover what you like best and least about your job?
This is a funny one because you guys asked this in the email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I often do this. My favorite thing and my least favorite thing are sometimes the same thing. You know, people can be maddeningly frustrating, and they can also be like delightfully gratifying, right? Like, I mean, as in life, you're going to run into just jerks and people who are unclear communicators, who are non-appreciative, who are rude, who are cheap, who are like all of it. And then you're also going to, like complete a project and make it through the fire and go through some hard times and have just the best feeling in the world for having fought through it. So the best and worst thing about my job is people. And I would say if, yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty common.
I think that's kind of, across the board, depending on the job, but the majority of, contemporary careers, got to deal with people.
Got to deal with people.
Got to
Yeah.
deal with them. So on that note, what other type of interests, abilities, and skills would help a person to be successful in your occupation?
I mean, you guys had asked me originally to talk a little bit about graphic design and design. And design has changed so dramatically in the last 10 years. My dad was in advertising, and he, his tools of his trade were pencils and pens and like sketch paper and vellum, and he was creating commercials in the 70s and 80s with those types of things. Those are not the tools anymore. And when somebody comes out of school and comes and applies to me for a creative job, I want to see the Adobe suite. I want to see HTML. I want to see some JavaScript, some CSS. I want to see some open frameworks. I want to see some motion. Not all of these things, but the tools of your trade have 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 changed. And I think that that goes for almost every occupation, whether you're making, magazines. Like, it used to be that you would build everything in Quark, and now everything is, different publishing tools, clothing design, the tools have changed. So um, think about your modern toolkit. Think about your modern, set of skills, and make sure that you've got them straight. And also think about that, let's call them that secondary toolkit that's going to make you special. Like I was saying, if I'm hiring designers, and I'm looking at, do they have the Adobe suite so they can, do creative. And some of these people come in, and it's sort of table stakes that they have that. And somebody comes in and they've got, like, they can also make videos and movies, they can do motion, or they can also, they're also like fully functional in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, stuff like that for front end web design. Like, think about your primary skill set, think about your secondary skill set. So those are some of the tools, like the baseline tools I think you need to, like, really kind of think about. And I would just go, like, write down what your core tools are coming out, and what you want to develop over the next few years.
So, what other advice would you give a student interested in this career?
Well, it's obviously changing dramatically right now. It's changing dramatically, and it used to be that you would really have to understand brands at their core. You had to understand what made Nike different from Adidas, and Gucci different from Bottega Veneta, and Pat McGrath different from Black Opal. You would have to understand those brand attributes, and I think that that's still really important. But I think what you need to do, I always say, and this is back from the school teacher days, like, you always have to ask questions. You always have to be inquisitive, and you always have to understand who the customers are, understand who is consuming the advertising and the creative that you are working on. Because you guys will see it. Like, look at a bad television commercial or a bad advertisement in a magazine. You're like, who are these people talking to? They just really don't get it. You got to know who you're talking to. So be a student of people. Doesn't matter how many computers and how many robots are gonna be in the near future. Be a student of people, because it's like, it's always people on the other end, until some future that is way, way far away. It's always people on the other end, and there, you have to have some sensitivity to your work and some empathy and emotion. So that goes for every job, but in advertising and marketing, I think is important.
So earlier you mentioned how technology really changed your job and what you were doing. So, what changes do you kind of foresee in the future?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot.
yeah, well, I mean, a lot has changed. Like, we anticipated a lot of the changes that are happening right now for the last 10 years. We've been building this kind of future of brand retail for many years, and kind of digitizing the process of trying on clothing, and beauty routines, and emotional connection to accessories, and all these, like, kind of cool things. We've been building that stuff for many years, and then obviously it all accelerated in the last 3 months, where people can really no longer and don't want to go and visit stores as much anymore. So you have to prepare for different sort of journeys of different, what we call customer journeys, where people would you would view it used to be you would view a television commercial, and and then you would go to a store. Now it's like, there's you might maybe, like, get exposed to a product or a brand via social, via, like, an influencer. Then you might read a story about it, you know, in an editorial online, and then it might drive you to a website um, to that you learn more about it. And then, you know what, maybe you'll book an appointment to go and see it in a store. That might be the future of, you know, how we shop. Or if it's something smaller, you know, you might just buy it online pretty, you know, pretty quickly and have it shipped to your house. But, you know, understand understand and think about this new customer journey, and you guys are sure to see, and we're all sure to see, many more points put into that customer journey. Again, it used to be just like, you know, be like a magazine or a TV advertisement in a store. Now we've got, you know, many changes in these journeys that have happened over the last, you know, 10 years, and there's sure to be more changes. Um, so, you know, listen, I look at technology from virtual reality to augmented reality and all different kinds. I was looking at technology this morning that was, you know, like better virtual try-ons than I've ever seen. So, you know, you might be a graphic designer who's going to put together virtual environments for trying on clothing, for trying on shoes. There's virtual environments for surgeons that are able to practice operations. Like there's going to be so many different types of things in the near term that are going to augment our current environment. You know, I don't think that virtual reality is going to really take over. I think we're in store for more of a mixed reality, which you guys are already experiencing right now with phones and headphones and watches and computers. We are sort of augmenting with technology, if you will. So understanding what graphic design means in those mediums is important.
Definitely is. So I have one last question. What are the opportunities for advancement within this career, specifically this occupation?
Well, the way that it goes for agencies, let's take agency work, for example. There are lots of different kinds of agencies. There's advertising agencies, marketing agencies, there's, you know, technology agencies. I'm a little bit of a hybrid of those. As an agency, you are able to get a, you know, get a junior, usually a junior entry level job, and then you work your way up, you know, director, vice president, SVP, EVP, C level. But what you do is you also can go brand side or agency side, and you kind of go back and forth so that you can go. And that's, if you want to know, like maybe one of the mistakes I've made in my career is I never went brand side. I only had my own business, and that's caused me to not always know what's going on the other side of the table, because sometimes you're like, you know, these people aren't getting it, or why aren't they just signing up for this? And you know, if you go to the brand side, they've got different things that they're thinking of. So my recommendation for for advancing in a career is, you know, if you want to go and get on an agency, involved with an agency, it's a lot of fun, and you get to work on many different accounts. So my team right now is working on 3-4 different brands. They're, you know, getting educated in home furnishing and luxury and footwear and beauty. So, you know, it's got the excitement of you being exposed to a bunch of different brands. Then you go brand side, and you get acquainted with how the brand businesses really tick, what it's like to be there day to day, why you know, how to get things done. So, you know, and that's really, and then having somebody come back to me after having come out of a brand and they've been exposed to the approval process, the budget process, the creative review process that I need to get smart, makes that person 10 times more valuable. So if you're thinking about entering into, you know, brand advertising, creative, that type of stuff, going back and forth in between the agency side and then the brand side and getting smart on both sides is a good path for advancement.
All right, that was really helpful advice. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our students?
You guys are students of New York City. greatest city in the world. Never forget that, because we bring something really, really different. So, I think that that's really important, and you won't know that, but it'll keep coming back to you guys through your career. You have been built in the city and built it yourself, and it is, it's the greatest city in the world for a reason. I, I've been in New York City for a long time, and I've seen it through a lot of tough times, and seeing the spark that it adds to the world, to creativity, to culture, to to everything. So, that's my biggest recommendation is embrace that and use it.